The story takes place in 1979. The Pope discovers a prophecy stating that a baby will be born who will become the mother of Satan's child. This child is believed to end the world during the new millennium. The Pope assigns a priest to locate and protect the baby. However, a cardinal insists on killing the baby to prevent the expected doomsday. The Pope disagrees, stating that it is a sin to harm the baby and that they should remain faithful to the prophecy. A few hours later, the baby mentioned in the prophecy is born and named Christine York. The Satanist nurses at the hospital take the baby to the basement in secret. They perform a ritual, officially designating the baby as the carrier of Satan's child. Afterward, they return the baby to her mother. Then, in the year 1999, just days before the new millennium, Satan arrives in New York and possesses a banker. As he exits a restaurant, it immediately explodes. The following day, a former detective named Jericho, now working for a private security company, is assigned to protect the possessed banker alongside his partner, Bobby. Jericho, who is battling alcoholism and depression after the loss of his wife and daughter, receives advice from their company headquarters regarding the location of the possessed banker. Upon reaching the location, Jericho searches for the shooter and discovers them in a specific building. Before the shooter can assassinate the possessed banker, Jericho pushes the banker into a car, taking a few shots himself, which are blocked by his bulletproof vest. He and Bobby then pursue the shooter in a helicopter, eventually reaching the rooftop of a tall building. Jericho uses a rope to secure himself and manages to capture the shooter as they attempt to escape. However, the shooter reveals a handgun, forcing Jericho to release him. The shooter flees to an underground railway, where Jericho successfully corners him. The shooter, who is a priest named Thomas, explains that his actions are an attempt to prevent the end of days, as foretold by the prophecy. Thomas gives Jericho an address tag and surrenders to the New York police station. Another detective named Marge reveals that Thomas has no tongue, leaving Jericho surprised since he had a conversation with the priest earlier. Jericho and Bobby follow the address tag to Thomas's apartment for further investigation. They discover symbols written in blood on the walls and come across a jar containing Thomas's tongue. They also find a hidden jar containing a photo of Christine. Marge, along with another police officer, arrive at the apartment and informs them that Thomas received training from the Vatican. Later that night, while Christine is riding the subway, she experiences visions warning her of Satan's approach. Believing it to be hallucinations, she regularly consults her psychiatrist, who prescribes her anti-anxiety medication. I guess heavy meds are always the solution. Back at home, Jericho recalls Thomas mentioning that 1,000 years have ended. To gain insight into Thomas's motives for the assassination attempt, he seeks out a priest who knows Thomas. The priest mentions a girl, but first asks Jericho about his faith. Jericho reveals that he has lost his belief in God following the deaths of his wife and daughter. Satan, now residing in the possessed banker's body, meets with a scientist who informs him that their plan is in motion. The following day, Satan goes to the prison hospital to visit Thomas. He hypnotizes a correctional officer to gain access to the facility. Satan then crucifies Thomas on the ceiling of the room before leaving to meet with the Satanists. Jericho and his detective colleagues visit Thomas in the hospital room, where they discover his body crucified, hanging from the ceiling using surgical tools. The doctors lower his body and find written words declaring the release of Satan after the passing of many years. The name Christ in New York is mentioned. Suddenly, Thomas's body moves unexpectedly, making a police officer shoot it immediately. To continue their investigation, Jericho and Bobby create a plan to search for the girl whose name was written on Thomas's body. Jericho suggests that Christ in New York may refer to Christine York. They use a computer to search for information on Christine, and her address is obtained. They then proceed to head towards her location. Meanwhile, Christine discovers a lifeless body in her bathtub and starts screaming. Vatican knights looking to assassinate her hunt her down. Eventually, they capture her, and one of the knights repeats a prayer before preparing to execute her. Jericho and Bobby arrive at the scene, hearing Christine's cries for help. They quickly enter the apartment, but the Vatican knights open fire, trying to stop their entry. A knight tries to stop Jericho from reaching the room where Christine is being held. However, as the knight is about to harm her, Christine pushes him away with surprising strength. She grabs a metal pole to defend herself while Jericho manages to overpower the heavy knight and push him down the stairs. The Vatican knights escape through a window without leaving any trace of their presence, except for a heart symbol they left behind. During the chaos, Jericho discovers a toy resembling the one his dead daughter once owned, further connecting him to Christine. Later on, the nurse, acting as Christine's guardian, arrives at the apartment. That evening, the satanic doctor instructs the nurse to bring Christine to Satan at the satanic temple. However, upon seeing Jericho guarding Christine outside their apartment, the nurse realizes that she cannot take her to the temple without Jericho discovering its location. Jericho comes across something that sheds light on the heart symbol associated with the Vatican Knights. He reads from religious texts that the Vatican Knights are assigned to stop Satan's destructive plan. While they discuss this, Christine notices small moving figures inside her apple, causing her to scream in fear and speak in a frightened voice, believing she is hallucinating once again. Jericho reassures her that he has experienced similar visions, suggesting that there must be an explanation for what they are seeing. Meanwhile, Satan urinates outside, and his satanic urine flows towards Bobby, who is waiting inside a car. Bobby throws fire at it, resulting in an immediate explosion that destroys him and the car. The explosion causes damage to a portion of the apartment. The nurse intervenes and uses her demonic strength to violently attack Jericho. In response, he throws her head against a table, causing her to lose consciousness. Satan enters the scene and calls out to Christine, but Jericho urges her to keep moving. Satan approaches the nurse and quickly ends her life as a nurse. Christine and Jericho manage to escape from the apartment. Outside, they encounter Marge and another officer, who are revealed to be Satanists. Marge demands that Jericho surrenders Christine to them. As Marge instructs the officer to kill Jericho, he quickly retrieves a gun and shoots back, putting an end to their lives. Jericho and Christine leave the scene, but Satan revives Marge to pursue them. Curious as to why people are after her and why she recognizes the face of the possessed banker, Jericho asks Christine for answers. She admits that she is clueless, but reveals that she sees the face of the possessed banker in her nightmares. Unable to find answers, Jericho takes Christine to see a priest. The priest introduces them to a possessed woman who predicts the end of days. If you need a quick break from the devil's work, subscribe to the channel. He explains that the end of days signifies humanity's destruction and the reign of the unholy on earth. The priest shows them a symbol associated with Satan's return, which matches the symbol on Christine's arm. He concludes that Christine is Satan's chosen one. The priest warns her that Satan intends to consummate their relationship on New Year's Eve, opening the gates of hell and bringing about the end of days. Spending New Year's Eve with Satan? That's a no for me. He explains that Satan needs a mortal body to engage in this act with Christine. Jericho, skeptical of the priest's claims, urges Christine to leave immediately. However, she believes the priest's explanation, leaving Jericho with no choice but to leave her under the priest's protection. Meanwhile, news of the priest finding Christine reaches the Pope, who instructs the cardinal to protect her. Jericho returns to his apartment where Satan is waiting for him. Satan presents Jericho with a vision of his wife and daughter, showing him a happy life with his family. Satan tempts Jericho to give up Christine in exchange for having his family back. However, Jericho refuses to accept Satan's offer, even when Satan reminds him of his family's death. Despite Satan's repeated temptations, Jericho remains firm on his decision. This angers Satan, who throws Jericho out of the tall building window. Miraculously, Jericho holds onto the window and prevents himself from falling. Seizing the opportunity, Jericho grabs Satan and throws him out of the window instead, causing Satan to fall to the ground. Soon after, Bobby, who miraculously survived, knocks on the door. Jericho realizes that he must keep Christine safe, so they plan to escape later. Meanwhile, the Cardinal and the Vatican Knight enter the church to kill Christine to prevent the end of days. The priest opposes their plan, explaining they cannot combat evil with more evil. Just as they are about to harm Christine, Jericho arrives and shoots the dagger, demanding that they release her and takes her with him as they flee outside. Satan enters the church, causing it to shake, and kills the Vatican Knights and the Cardinal. Outside, Satanists intercept Jericho and Christine, but Bobby arrives in a car and tells them to get in. Christine gets in the car, and Bobby drives away, leaving Jericho behind. The Satanists gang up on Jericho, beating him up without mercy. Satan arrives on the scene and binds Jericho to a crucifix-like position. Afterward, Bobby drives away with Satan and Christine in the car. As New Year's Eve approaches, the priest discovers Jericho hanging and sets him free the following day. Jericho eventually wakes up just a few hours before midnight. He goes to the headquarters of the security company to obtain weapons. Tracking the location of Bobby's car, he drives towards it. Jericho finds Marge entering the abandoned theater and secretly follows her until they reach the Satanist ritual site. There, Satan is ready to perform a love ritual with Christine, signaling the beginning of the end. Marge detects Jericho sneaking in and tries to shoot him, but he manages to shoot her first. Jericho then eliminates the Satanist guards, and Christine comes running towards him. To protect himself from Satan's attack, Jericho threatens to harm Christine. Satan contacts Bobby and orders him to shoot Jericho, but Bobby, who had struck a deal with Satan for his resurrection, refuses to listen to him. This makes Satan set Bobby on fire, causing his death. Jericho throws a grenade that causes the Satanist temple to explode. Afterward, he and Christine escape as the temple is consumed by fire. They reach a railway track where they narrowly avoid getting struck by a passing train. The train conductor stops the train and allows them to board. I sure hope this train is fast enough. Satan continues pursuing them on the train, driven by his desire to capture Christine for a 1,000-year mating. He seizes the heart of the train conductor and throws him off of the train. Jericho disconnects the train cars, effectively separating themselves from Satan. Satan enters the train car, and in response, Jericho throws another grenade, causing Satan's possessed body to explode into pieces. Satan abandons the body and continues to pursue Jericho and Christine. The pair rushes toward a nearby church while the Satanists give chase. They secure the church gates to keep the Satanists out. Inside the church, Jericho considers his next move and realizes that having faith in God is crucial. He prays for God's strength and assistance. However, Satan arrives, setting fire to the church and causing it to shake. Satan reveals a monstrous form to Jericho and possesses his muscular body. The possessed Jericho forcibly tries to perform the love ritual with Christine. At that moment, Christine urges him to resist the temptation. Jericho fights against his own desires and, choosing to sacrifice himself, impales himself on a sword to stop Satan's evil plan. Consequently, Satan is expelled from Jericho's body and sent back to hell. In his dying moments, Jericho experiences joy as he envisions his family waiting for him in heaven. Rest in peace, Jericho. You were a real one. Enjoy that time with your family now. Finally, Christine holds Jericho, expressing her gratitude for his sacrifice. And with that, the movie ends. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to subscribe and support the channel. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.